Let's make a sign for my mushroom. What the heck is a mushroom? Well, it's nothing else than the room in my apartment where the toilet is and where I started a mushroom collection. And during my apartment tour, which I've shown you in one of my last videos, I came to the idea to call this room Mushroom Room until I realized that that is redundant and that it also would make sense if it's only called Mushroom. When I then looked up what the word mush means in English, it was even more funny. So let's try to make a sign from a pretty old ideology frame and some other materials. These white letters, by the way, are also by ideology. They are newer and they are still available. I'm not so sure if these wooden frames are still available, but perhaps you can find them still online. So this idea is obviously pretty personal. Perhaps you have a mushroom collection in your toilet room as well. Then you could do it like I do it here. I mean, exactly with this word mushroom. But of course, this idea could also be transferred to any other room sign, any other word. You can also, of course, take this idea and put this little sign later on to a journal cover. So what I've done here is I realized that my words mush and room fit pretty perfectly into this little frame, but lengthwise, but the height was obviously way too big. So I wanted a really, really, like narrow frame around the words mush and room. So first of all, I have taken this knife to cut this thing apart. If you have a saw, then please use the saw. That would have been way easier. And I also wanted to have the words mush and room stand on this little ruler piece. This is also by ideology. So I have cut that to the right length. First, I have also cut in with my knife, and then I have used my favorite scissors by Tonic Studios and Tim Holtz to cut the rest of the wood. That was really, really easy with these scissors, but please make sure that you don't hurt yourself when you work with knives or scissors and those kind of tools. So now the ruler piece is exactly the same length like the inner part of this frame. And now my problem was that this little edge on the bottom was not completely like 90 degrees. So I couldn't see how tall this frame needed to be. So I decided to turn everything upside down because then it could lay flat on my table. I've taken then this piece which I've just removed to find out where I have to put it and then where I have to cut the frame so that this piece which I've just removed later on will fit back into the frame. I hope that makes sense. So I have made sure that on both of the sides, the distance from the bottom to where I want to cut it is exactly the same. Otherwise, that would look totally wonky in the end. So I have taken my time here and double checked everything. Then I have taken these little angles from the piece I want to put back in a second to get, the right mark there in the right angle. And here I'm trying to first cut with the same knife I've used before, but that didn't work so well. So I have taken a bigger knife, which was way sharper. Again, if you have a saw, then please use the saw, okay? So, but as you can see here, this is just the original speed of my process. It worked, but it took a pretty long time to come through this wood with the knife. So then I have taken some sandpaper to make the edges a little bit more smooth so that everything fits nicely together. And then here, a little accident, this little piece has fallen out, but that is not the problem because I can easily put that back in while I'm gluing this back together. Here first, I forgot to put the piece in. So here I realized this. And then I have just taken my glue, which is bookbinder's glue, to put this little piece in there. And I've smeared the glue into this little area there. Then I have put the piece into this little area. And then I have, I went over the area with my finger to make sure that that sits in there exactly in the position it was before. And then it was invisible in the end, that it was an accident. So then I have this etc. tag here by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz, and I had this leftover from another project. So I thought I can take a piece of that, because that is really thick and sturdy material, to back my frame so that I have a background for this word mushroom. So I have taken bookbinder's glue again. You could also use collage medium or any other glue which would work with these materials. And then I have taken some clamps to clamp everything together and make sure that everything can dry really well. To be honest, these clamps have driven me a little bit crazy, because with putting them on the material, the back moved and it was not lined up with the frame anymore. So perhaps you want to have that in mind. Make sure that the clamps don't push the material in a direction where you don't want it, and then everything dries and then it's wonky in the end. Take your time to do that and to control that if everything is in the right place. So next, I have taken some grit paste crypt. On the one hand, because I wanted to have the frame really grungy and textured, but on the other hand, with this paste, and you can do that with any other texture paste, for example, as well, of course, I wanted to cover my little, uneven things there, because obviously my cut with the knife is not as exact as it should have been to make a really 100% perfect frame. But the grit paste crypt is not only perfect for adding grunge because it's gritty, but it also makes a really great filler for those kind of problem areas. So then I have taken some frayed burlap distress paint and later on oxide spray to give this frame a color. Originally, I thought it looks already really nice with only this wooden color. I really, really love this color especially of the frame. But then I thought it doesn't fit to my floor. And then my freak freaked a little bit, so that I decided to take a totally different color, which doesn't remind to the color of my floor, but more to the color I have in the toilet room or in other areas in my apartment. While the distress paint was still a little bit wet, I have spritzed the oxide spray on top, and then while drying that with my heat gun, I have splattered some water to get the oxidation and to get a really, really nice and like really old look. I wanted that it looks really dusty and like, I think weathered is a good word for this. So here you can see the dried result. And then I have placed my words in here to see how everything looks. And I really enjoy these letters in white as they come from the package. I mean, you could, of course, paint them with whatever you want, but look how cool this looks. And then suddenly I remembered that with these letters from Idea-ology, there also comes this little star. So in the package, there's, I don't know how many, 2, 4, I don't know how many stars per package there are. But then I thought this is even cooler when there is something in the middle which divides the words mush and room a little bit more, so that it doesn't look like an accidentally wrongly spaced thing. Do you know what I mean? But then I also realized that there is not really enough space for this star. While thinking about this problem, because it looked really narrow there, I decided to first go on with my little ruler piece. I wanted to change the color of that as well because, same reason like with the frame before. So I have taken some scorched timber distress paint and I dipped the edge of this ruler piece in there to get that really, really dark. And also the short ends there where my thumb and my other fingers are now, the short ends of this thing, I have also painted with scorched timber in a really intense way. For the bottom and the top of this, I mixed the paint with a little bit of water to get that not so extremely dark. I think that brings a lot of depth, and also, of course, that makes that we can still see the numbers on the ruler piece. Here, look, I have just taken my, I just thought I'm so sorry. I'm sitting here making this voiceover, and there was just a thought in my brain that ruler is not the right word, but obviously it is a ruler, isn't it? But there are also these tape measures. I mean, this is not really a ruler, Louise. It's a tape measure. Yeah, I think that is the better word. So what I did here was I diluted the paint with a little bit of water so that we still can see the numbers on there, because covering that up would make no sense in my eyes. So then I have put that in there, still struggling with the space the star has, but look how cool that looks. So then I decided that I want to have the edges of the frame a little darker, so that we also get a connection to the color I've just used on this other piece there. And I also went over the nearly whole thing with Scotch timber mixed with water, because the paint, because I wanted to have these little patterns of the frame, these slots a little bit more visible. That worked medium well, as you can see here. But I went on because I liked the look of it. So I first glued this tape measure little shelf piece there, to then glue the letters with some collage medium. In this step, I made sure that I press the letters down and don't move them, so that the collage medium can't squish to the background, because I have oxide spray there, and that would then probably look a little bit weird when that was mixed with collage medium, which would be shown there. That can make a really ugly effect. So I wanted to make sure that the collage medium stays under the letters. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So then I came to the idea that the star is great, but not from the package with the white letters, but I also had these other stars from Idea-ology, which are made from metal. And that star I have chosen is a little smaller, but it disappeared between the letters. So I thought I take a nail. This is also one of the Idea-ology nails, really cool. I've just poked a hole in there to make sure that I can glue the nail there. Then I painted my little metal star with some picket fence distress paint, and I've just glued it on with some collage medium so that the star comes more to the foreground. And yeah, it's somehow an optical illusion that the star is now smaller. But I really liked how that came out. So then I have taken just some double-sided tape, because I want to glue that to my Mush room door in a second. And I want to make sure that I can remove that if it is needed, that I remove it. But of course, you could also put another kind of thing to the back if you want to hang that to a nail which you hammer into the wall. Yeah, then you could also, of course, do that differently. But I also like the idea of having the possibility to hang this so that you can't see how it was attached to where you want to attach it, so that the mechanism is like invisible. So yeah, then when I saw that, and when I then thought about the color of my door, which is white, I decided that I want to add some picket fence crayon around this whole thing to give it a little more white, which matches also the color of the letters really well and the color of my door. And at the same time, I could make this a little dusty, because I have other pieces of art in my apartment which I made dusty on purpose as well. So I thought that fits really nicely to the rest of what I have here. And I really, really like that this looks like it's standing on this little shelf. I mean, it's like a little shelf in a frame, isn't it? Yeah, so I have let that dry really well. And then I went to my door, and in this part of the video, I originally here wanted to show you how I attach it to the door, either here, directly, there where you touch this thing to open the door, I don't know the name, or there where I can have it in the height of my eyes. Then I wanted to make photos for Instagram, and I wanted to make that here. So what you can see here is where I was when I wanted to make these photos. And then I thought, wait, I have these little plastic plants here, and with making the photo, I saw how nicely this color and the style of those plants fit to this little thing. And I have more of these plants in the room, so I went back to my table because I thought, hello, friend. My vacuum cleaner was doing its job exactly there where I wanted to do my project, but I ignored that because I liked the idea of attaching these plants so much that I immediately had to do that. Because I thought that is a nice addition and that makes it more special somehow. The good thing was I could take another of these ideology nails to attach the plant really easily because you can see there's a little hole in the plants. I think that is for most of the plastic plants you can buy. They all, or the most of them, have these holes where they are attached to each other or to a twig or so, and then you can easily, it's plastic, cut it a little bit so that it's a little bit more flat, that the nail lays really flat in there. And then it's really easy to attach that to a frame or to wherever you want to attach it. Doesn't have to be a frame. I've just poked a hole into the frame carefully with my awl. And then I have put a little bit of collage medium to the nail to then be able to put that into the hole. Please don't take the nail and hammer directly on the nail when you have it on the frame, especially when you have a frame which is so thin, because then it can happen that the frame breaks. Yeah, you need to drill a hole into such a thin piece of wood to make sure that the wood can't break. I wanted to have the plants staying in place, so I have taken some super glue. Make sure that you don't glue your fingers to the plant or the frame. Take an awl or something to press that down. So here you can see one of the leaves is just behind the frame and it's there so that the rest stays in place. And I did that with one of the leaves of the second thing here as well. Just pressed it there until the glue grabbed. You could take collage medium for gluing this as well or other glue, but I was a little bit impatient because, look, I wanted to have this and then see how it looks on my door. So that was the reason for the super glue. It's a really fast thing, obviously. So then I went back to my door. And in that moment, I also decided that I want to have it there in the middle of the door instead of, in the position I've just shown you before. And I think that is just cool because now we have the connection between the plants outside and inside. I hope you like this idea and I wish you a very creative day. See you.